Hi, and welcome to Female Entrepreneurs Magazine, your go to platform for ambitious women who are ready to take the business world by storm. I'm your host, Angel France, and each week we'll dive into the latest strategies, stories, and success secrets from the most inspiring female entrepreneurs around the world. Whether you're just starting out or scaling up, this is your space to connect, learn, and grow alongside a community of trailblazing women who, just like you, they are making their mark in the world of business. From personal branding to powerhouse marketing, from leadership to lifestyle tips, we've got you covered. So get ready to ignite your passion, fuel your purpose, and unlock your potential with Female Entrepreneurs Magazine. Let's make this journey together and turn your entrepreneurial dreams into reality. Hi, and welcome to The Real Female Entrepreneurs. Our next guest has over 15 years of experience as a licensed clinical psychologist who empowers women just like you to embrace midlife as a time of reinvention and possibility. She helps her clients design careers that reflect their evolving strengths and values, turning transition into triumph. Help me welcome the amazing, transformative Dr. Breese Annable. Hey, how are you doing, Breese?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for that introduction and for having me.
Yeah, you are amazing. We got to talk a few minutes ago just before we got on. And you're in Asheville, North Carolina, correct?
Asheville, North Carolina. Yes.
Wow. I know it's trying to put North Carolina and Asheville together.
Oh, people do it all the time. Yeah, I am in Asheville in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains.
Gorgeous area.
Yeah,
Gorgeous.
it is.
Mm-hmm. So, and I'm a New Orleans girl. A lot of people know that. So, you guys are still dealing with that disaster. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I say we're in the long haul of the long-term recovery. We are.
Yeah. And our prayers are with you. We know that it's gonna recover. It does happen.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I know you speak from experience and know that all too well. And certainly seeing what New Orleans has been able to come out of the other side of Katrina and rebuild, and certainly gives us hope for what will happen here. Hopefully.
Yeah, it will. It does happen.
Yeah.
So let's get back to this. What inspired you really to become the female entrepreneur that you are today?
Oh my goodness, this was, such an interesting thing to reflect on. I will say I unknowingly stepped into entrepreneurship over 10 years ago on paper. But at the time, it wasn't something that I set out to do. It wasn't a goal of mine. I was at a time in life where I was really making a major change, moving from the West Coast to the East. And, at the time, I loved my career. And so I thought I would really just try to replicate as much as I had where I was living on the West Coast. I wanted to replicate that as much as I could in my new city. I was moving to Asheville at the time. And, I got clear about the work I wanted to do. I found the company I wanted to work for. It checked all the boxes and I got the job. But when I got the job, I got the offer, there was just something inside of me that just said no. And it was really, even though I wasn't using these words at the time, it was really about recognizing that working for somebody else was not going to give me the freedom and the autonomy that I wanted to have. And so it was really that decision that set me on the path of entrepreneurship. And, I feel like I stepped into that idea of being an entrepreneur very much more and more over the years. But those founding qualities of freedom and options and autonomy for myself really guided me throughout the last 10 years. And I feel like has just allowed me to have so many iterations of my business, and more recently to add in a second business. So it really was this idea of wanting freedom and autonomy. And I would say, looking at even the last few years coming into midlife, I would add the word creativity onto that as well. I have just also loved how entrepreneurship has really allowed me a sense of creativity to, just to expand my businesses in a way that allows me to again, just to imagine things again, to have ideas, to feel inspired again in a really wonderful, incredible way. So yeah, so my journey into entrepreneurship was unintentional, but is something that I've really stepped into, and just feel more and more inspired by each year.
So you said businesses. Explain the two types of businesses that you have right now.
Yeah, so I start off. I over 10 years ago, I opened my own private practice as a psychologist, which I will say, when I started in that particular field, we were not talking about having our own practices as businesses. That's really something that has started to be talked about more and more, I would say, maybe over the last 5 or 8 years or so. So that was the first business that I started, and I still have today. And then I more recently started a coaching practice, which is where I help midlife women who are feeling stuck and burned out and unchallenged in their careers, despite having achieved a lot of professional success. And so, in my coaching practice, I help women be able to, first and foremost, get really clear about the life they want to live and do the personal reflection that they need to then be able to move into and pursue a career that really excites them again. So, those are my two businesses. I work still as a clinical psychologist, and then I have my business as a coach.
Well, that sounds fun. I love the fact that you still have both aspects of your business and you're just growing on that business.
Oh, exactly. They're just both really feel so true to who I am and what I love to do. And certainly there are similarities and overlaps between therapy and coaching, but they're also very different in so many ways. And so again, I think that's just such the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship is that there are these ways that different facets of who we are and strengths and interests that we have can be expressed, and we can be able to have it all simultaneously. So yeah, I do both businesses at the same time.
And you said you moved 10 years ago?
Gosh, it has been 13 years ago now. Almost 13 years ago. Yes, we moved to the East Coast.
All right. So I know you have some children, correct?
I do. Yes,
And
two
what are their
kids.
ages?
They are 8 and 10.
8 and 10. Wow. So how do you balance the demands of your running two businesses now with your personal responsibilities and having children and a husband and running around?
Yes. Well, I would say one of the things that makes the biggest difference is my husband. Being able to have a partner who really, he has his own business as well. He's a psychologist and has his own practice as well. And so we're just able to really mutually support one another. And especially as I've been, growing my coaching business, especially, he has really stepped in and taken on a lot of the, school pickups and all the things with having elementary aged kids. So having a husband and partner who really kind of balances the load of all of it, and will do all my spreadsheets and all the coordinations and all of those things. He's really key in being able to make it all happen. And then I would say the other thing is really having been very intentional about designing businesses, not only for myself, my husband did as well, designing businesses that work for our lives. I think very often, we we have our work and then life fits in. And we've been very intentional about doing the opposite. So really designing businesses that was going to fit this time of life and the life that we wanted to have. And I would say practically as well, I'm one of those 5 a.m. wake up people too. So I get up early, I do work before everybody gets up, and it really helps me to have a time for myself with quiet and get a good jump start on the day.
That 5 a.m.'s tough, but it really makes a difference in your life, huh?
It really, really does. Having that extra hour or two before, the life gets going, it makes a huge difference for me.
So, what advice do you have for other women who are trying to start their own business right now? They haven't jumped into it yet, but they're thinking about it.
Oh gosh. I think one of the most important things is to have support. Have support in two ways. So, if you're starting a business, I really think it's key to have a coach, or maybe it's a mastermind or a group of other entrepreneurs, because I think it's really hard if you go in and you try to DIY it. The reality is there are a lot of people out there who have experience, they have systems, they have knowledge and wisdom, that really can make such a big difference in setting those systems up for yourself really early on. So from a strategic perspective, I really encourage women to get support, again, whether that's from a coaching program or other people who are a little farther ahead than you as well. And then get support just emotionally too. Business is as much strategy as it is emotion. And that's where, the psychology of all of it, I think, is just so, so, so important. So I'd really encourage women to find those people early, and they can be people who are right alongside you at the same place or maybe a little bit ahead. But having that support it is, I think, critical in the process. So that would be my first thing, is find people who have the systems and have the experience to help on both a strategy level as well as an emotional level. The other thing I would say is take action. I like to think that, or my coach taught me that, perfection is 80%. I say to myself very often, it's like good enough, right? So very often I think as women, we don't want to put something out into the world until we feel like it's perfect or it's exactly what we want it to be. But so often I think that leads to hesitation and overthinking and just kind of spinning your wheels. So I like to think as 80% is good and it is perfect, right? So that idea of good enough, because you'll never learn all that you need to learn until it's out in the world. So that would be my other piece of advice, would be take action. Because I think it's a win-win, right? You move forward, you get it out in the world, and then on top of it, you gain more experience, whether again, it's from a marketing perspective or even just from seeing your blocks and your obstacles, the things that you cannot see until it's out in the world. So that would be the biggest thing I would say, is take action. Don't wait for perfection. Just have it be good enough and get it out into the world.
Well, that definitely answers my next question about women who are struggling in business. I think the take action thing that is a key, because we struggle with wanting everything perfect before we put it out there.
Yes, absolutely. And again, I say I'm a recovering perfectionist, recovering in that, perfectionism still gets out there in that, I think when we have ideas and, we want it to be well received, we want it to go well. It at the same time though, again, I think putting something out into the world is going to give more knowledge. You gain so much more from actually having experiences than you ever do when it's still all up in your brain. So that taking action is just such a key piece. There's so much growth that happens when you actually have, and I think it takes so much courage to put things out there that are imperfect. They always will be, but I like to think, that it allows it to have all these iterations that will improve over time.
Yep. I mean, we are in Nashville right now. We're not even sure if the recording's going to come out perfect because
Yes.
of the internet. Correct?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you just have to roll with it and just a lot of times I say like, just absolutely do your best and go for it.
That is one of the biggest keys, I say. Just take action. Let's see what
Yes.
happens. Everything's fixable in the back end.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Things are fixable, and I also think again that it is a willingness to continually to be vulnerable, but with that comes creativity, comes ideas, and again it comes with experiences. So I think there's just so much value in having the courage to put things out into the world.
So, knowing what you know now, what advice would you go back and give your 18-year-old self?
you know, This is interesting. I don't know that I would need this advice to my 18-year-old self. She was just very kind of clear about, at that age, I was very clear about what I wanted to do and focused. But I feel like I would need some advice for my early 20s self. And I feel like the advice, what I would like to say to her, what advice I would like to give would just be to say you're good enough. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't need external things to again prove yourself that you're inherently worthy just by being. And the more that you're you, just genuinely you, the easier life is and the easier life gets. I think there's just such an ease when your primary relationship, first and foremost, is with yourself. And I think when you approach life in that way, it just, again, it's so much easier. So that's the advice that I would give my early 20s self, is that you don't have to prove yourself. And the more you are, the easier and just smoother life is.
So, now that we've gone back, let's go forward. I know you're a planner. And so, what type of planning do you do right now to get ready for 2025?
Yes. So much is really, I think, first looking back. I know we're saying we're looking forward, but I think very often it's taking some real time to pause and reflect on the achievements and accomplishments to really take that in. I think very often, as women, we don't do that. And especially when, we have I'll speak for myself, but I know I speak for other women too. When we have high expectations of ourselves, it can be really easy to have, just to not stop and take stock of the accomplishments. So, in doing that, one of the things that I am just so clear about looking forward to 2025 is how committed I am to continuing to build community for midlife women. In particular, I have a group coaching program to help midlife women with clarity about how to how to pursue a career that really brings them excitement and inspiration and purpose again. And I'm just so clear that that is something that I want to reach more women, and I want to continue building community for midlife women, just because I believe so deeply in it that I want to have other women have that experience of being in community at such a critical and important time in life and in their careers.
It's needed
Yes.
because so many of us sit back and go, okay, what do I really want to do? And we don't take hold of it and actually do it.
Yes, absolutely. And I think midlife it's really a pivotal time because I think the default very often is kind of a sense of stagnation and even being on autopilot. And I really want midlife women to themselves in a way that maybe they haven't felt in years. So that is my number one for 2025, is really just to reach more women and build this community for them to be a part of.
Do you mind sharing a goal you have? Is that your goal, or do you have another goal beyond that that you're looking at?
I think it's really continuing to be able, I think it's a couple of things on the personal side, wanting to continue to make my businesses work for my life. That ultimately is always just such a driving goal for me. And I'm so aware that the time of startup in business is kind of all hands on deck, and it can be 24/7. And so coming into this new year, I'm really wanting to continue to, be clear about how my businesses can work for my life specifically, wanting to be able to, be there for all the kids' events, which I make happen, but sometimes, it's more of a juggle. And so I'd like to have more spaciousness to do that. And I also really want to have more time for myself to come back into just being really involved in my community. It's something that's incredibly important for me, especially we talked about, after the hurricane here as well. And so just wanting to make sure that, again, my businesses allow me to have the time and the energy to give back and be a part of my community in even bigger ways.
Yeah, that is key. Giving back is key, I believe, in every situation.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, so important. For me, has always been just a core part of who I am, to really try to not only be a part of, but improve the community that I live in. So it's really important to me, and something I want to be at the forefront, especially in 2025.
So, what is one key strategy that you have actually done that most people said, "Oh no, that's not going to work," but it actually helped you grow your business?
Oh, goodness. I don't know if anybody said this wasn't going to work, but I think one of my biggest strategies per se is, you know, everybody you talk to has their opinions about what's going to help you grow your business. But I think ultimately it's a matter of taking in all the input. And again, a lot of the strategies can be very effective. But if you don't enjoy it, it's not going to lead to a sustainable business. So I think one of the key strategies for me is really been to take information that I hear from people who, again, have a lot of experience and knowledge in the marketplace, but to ultimately filter that into saying, well, what of these things really speaks to me? What of these things really do I enjoy doing? Because ultimately, I think, again, that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. Just like with anything, it comes with parts we don't like or hard parts, but I try as much as possible to really focus on things that I genuinely enjoy, and also things that genuinely tap into what I'm good at. Because I think that's really the key to a sustainable business, and to keeping it being one that you love and that you want to keep growing and being a part of. So I think that's one of the key things, is to take the advice and take, well, all the information that you hear from people, but really then think about, like, how does that fit for who I am, the business that I want to run, and what's gonna make this sustainable for me ultimately.
Yeah, you hit on about 10 different areas right there. Just that one sentence you just said.
No, I know.
All right. So let's go on a lighter side. If you had a superpower for just one day, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. I always, anytime I think about this, I struggle to say this without sounding creepy. And I don't want it to sound creepy, but I would be invisible. I always think it would, this is probably why I'm a psychologist, right? I just am fascinated by people. And so I would be invisible, because I would love to go and just be, maybe in an airport or those places that are just perfect for people watching, and just be able to really just observe people. But, I don't know if it's less or more creepy to be invisible while you're doing it, but that would be my superpower, because I am fascinated and love just learning about people and observing people. So if I could choose that, I would be invisible.
So I agree with the invisibility because of the fact that you get to actually like people watch and see and analyze out. I love it. My husband tells a joke about this because I love personalities galore. I love everything about it, even down to what people wear based on their
Okay.
personality.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I am right there with you.
And my husband has been somewhere and he said with a group of guys, he's like, oh, that girl's just wearing the wrong thing for her body type.
You've rubbed off on him.
And it's like, what? Does Angel know you did? Oh, yeah, she taught me how.
Oh. Yes, I agree. I mean, just watching and observing people, yes, that I just find it absolutely fascinating.
So it's my jam too. So I get it. All right. What about a book? What is your favorite book or books?
Oh gosh, I would say maybe not a particular book, but I love anything by the author Pema Chodron. She has really been such her books, and I've had an opportunity to do some studies with her. She's just been such a teacher for me throughout my entire life. For those who don't know, she's a Buddhist teacher. And I just find, her wisdom is it's so practical. I joke that she is the ultimate badass. She's like an 85-year-old nun. But her teachings, again, are just so practical. They're so wise. And it really, for me, has helped me to learn how to fully show up in life, as intimately, as connected, as I possibly can, and as courageously as I can. So her teachings have, all of her books have really just been incredibly influential for me.
So what about a book? I mean, a song. A song. What about a song? We
Well,
just don't have
I would say, as far as a song that I was thinking about something that really just, gives me energy, or if I feel like I'm needing like a mood boost, I love Florence and the Machine, The Dog Days Are Over. I feel like that one, every time, it just is one that I have to turn up as high as I can, and it never fails. It gives me the biggest boost to my mood.
Okay, I have to go listen to it again. I haven't listened to it in a while.
So good, so good. Again, it just like every time, it is a go-to for me if I need a mood boost.
How do you stay motivated?
uh I think it comes back to a couple of things. One, as I said before, I think very often motivation, I see it very often as a byproduct, not something that I have to get myself to feel necessarily. But I feel like for me, it's more of an indication of, am I spending time on the right things? Am I choosing wisely as far as, how I'm spending my time? Or as I was saying before, the things I choose to take on in my business. I feel like if I'm choosing wisely, then motivation is a byproduct. So I feel like, motivation, I look at it, as I said, less about, how do I keep this feeling going or this thing going, but more, how do I let it inform me about the choices that I'm making upstream, on my business? Because I find if I'm really doing things that are creative and exciting and inspiring, that motivation follows.
What about a quote? What is your favorite quote?
Well, I will probably paraphrase it. I don't know that I'll get it exactly, but the quote that I love, is by Viktor Frankl, and the quote is, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies our growth and our freedom." So I just love this quote because it is, I think, such a reminder, something I always come back to be really intentional about my responses to things. And of course, this is aspirational. It's always a day-to-day practice, but I do find that, be really responsive rather than reactive, and creating space for myself to really get clear before responding and making decisions. Again, I truly do feel like in my life and in so many of the people that I work with in both of my businesses, I do think that learning that practice of pausing, it really is the place that we have our growth and our freedom.
The pause. I have to work on the pause.
It is a daily practice. We all have to keep working on it. Yes.
What is the best way for our audience to connect with you?
Well, they are welcome to find me at my website, drbreeseannable.com. They can also find me on Instagram at Dr. Breese Annable Coaching. Those are two great places to find me. And I'm on Facebook as well, and would love to have them join me there.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our female entrepreneur audience?
I think the biggest thing is be courageous, is to really get clear about what you feel inspired to bring to life in the world. That's the thing I love most about entrepreneurship, that it is just this place of creativity. And so to allow yourself to be creative, to allow yourself to be inspired, and then to have the courage to bring it into the world, as imperfect as it might be. I think it's worth it every time.
Well, Breese, it was a pleasure having you on here today. You are just amazing. You are welcome anytime. They
Oh,
all need encouragement from you and your knowledge and support. So thank you.
oh, thank you so much for having me. I can't thank you enough. This has been such a joy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Female Entrepreneurs Magazine. I hope you found inspiration, actionable tips, and a sense of connection with our incredible community of driven women. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and share the episode with fellow entrepreneurs who are ready to elevate their game. Remember, your success is just the beginning, and we're here to support you in every step of the way. Until next time, keep shining, keep thriving, and remember, you have the power to create the business and life of your dreams. Stay inspired, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.